Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us again on another what promises to be incredible episode of the single greatest podcast in all of human history, Armchair ESG with Nate and Yates. With me, as always, my partner in crime. And I say that every time, Nate, we got to plan a crime. But how are you doing today, Mr. Najara?
Doing great. Well, it better be a crime with some good payback, right?
Yeah. I mean, we're old.
Not
It'll
like
be
a dumb crime,
a light
right?
misdemeanor. Oh, well, you're thinking big. I'm thinking more like drinking outside when we're not supposed to, and then
No, I'm just saying
paying fifty
something that
dollar
doesn't,
fine.
yeah, doesn't kill us or
It makes
cause
us stronger.
huge reputational damage. Yeah. So
My
yeah.
reputation is shot. I'm not worried about it. Um, and then joining us again today after her debut last week, our marketing and content manager, Tessa Shaw. Tessa, how are you doing on this fine morning?
I'm doing good. Currently bundled up because in San Diego, you would think it would be really nice right in the morning, but instead it gets to 40 degrees and then gets to 88 degrees and then gets cold again. But got my coffee, so we're good.
Well, and we make a point for those of you who have listened now to talk about the weather at the beginning of each episode. One, because we're an ESG company and we're interested in climate change, but where it is appropriate this time is perhaps someday we will have artificial intelligence that can control the weather. And on that note, I'm happy to bring back our Chief Technology Officer, Andrew Kou. How are you doing today, Andrew?
I'm doing well. Thanks. How's everyone?
We are
We're good.
excited to be here. Yeah, this is one of the I think our more enjoyable parts of the job, and not knocking other stuff, but like this is fun. And we get to meet interesting people and talk about interesting stuff. And that's exactly what we're trying to do today. So we are at our core, if you look at the type of company Owl is, we have a product. So in terms of product and output to the market, we are an ESG investment company. We are here to provide you with a set of tools to make ESG investing much easier, much more resource efficient, much more effective. But the tools that we provide are often obfuscated to people like me who are, I'm not quite a Luddite, but you know, it gets relative as things get more advanced. And we have some very special technology that does these things. And that's what we brought you on to talk about. So, just at the very core, just very high level, can you talk about sort of what you do and where we're going with it?
Well, there's lots of things we do here at Al. Not to bore you with a lot of details, but we're building out, primarily a lot of tools and technology to enable people to do ESG research, right? So that we can get to data that you can trust, and really get you ahead, from with a head start rather than starting from zero. And so we deploy AI and various different technologies to help you do so.
Yeah, great. Andrew, I'm going to jump in with some questions here. I'm glad to have you on board to clear up some things. But really simple, what is AI and what is it not? You hear so much about AI in commercials. Our kids are talking about it. Everybody's throwing around that word AI. So what is it? What is it not?
Yeah, so I think the ultimate goal of AI is really to build a piece of technology that can function more or less, with sort of close to human intelligence, right? And I think that's always been sort of the goal there. More realistically, what AI is or has been moving towards is being able to solve specific problems that we encounter, in different parts of our work and life, et cetera, with something close to that. I think a lot of times when people hear AI, they think, oh, it's this amazing piece of technology where I can, it's like having an assistant or another person that you can go off and solve a problem for me, right? And in reality, that's really not the case. I think we're going to get there at some point in time, but I think as of right now, we really should be thinking about it, not dissimilar to when we first got PCs, right? A piece of technology that really, really amplified what we're able to do, and view it as a tool that really help us, get ahead really for what we're doing.
Hey, Andrew, following up on that point, What you're saying, what it sounds like you're saying is we shouldn't treat this as a silver bullet, right? That this is going to fix everything for me. And it's going to just, like you said, be an assistant. I give it a couple of commands and it comes back and it gives me everything I need without any interaction for me or any thought process for me. Is that what you're saying in essence?
Yeah, and I think, you know, what else I think is important is really to not really treat it as a black box. And, you know, there are a lot of considerations surrounding it that, you know, we as users and people who deploy AI as well really want to talk about and bring to the attention to everyone sort of in the ecosystem. I think it's really important to understand, right, as with any tool, you know, what it does, what it doesn't do, and what are some of the impact it has by using it.
Can
I'm gonna jump in.
Yeah, go ahead.
So kind of piggybacking off of when you had mentioned it being kind of like your assistant, I've heard a lot of AI essentially helping to relieve the burden or load off of specific jobs. So for example, like the healthcare industry, I know a lot of them are moving towards ER, so electronic health records. And so I know that AI is really beneficial for them because then they don't have to sit down and do all of the paperwork. So I guess, would you say that in those instances, it would be, you know, like a better solution versus, and thinking about it that way, is helping to relieve that load of work versus, you know, completely relying on that, like you said, as an assistant?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, like even within the work that we do, we saw really early on that, you know, compared to, so one of the big functions that we have is gathering data from documents and reports, et cetera. And very early on, we were able to see a drastic reduction of what we call human errors. And I think just in these documents with multiple hundreds of pages, you know, multiple documents and per company that we work with, a lot of times it's, you know, sometimes there's a lapse in concentration, you know, people get tired. Things do happen and maybe somebody hit the wrong button on the keyboard, right? There are a lot of potential for certain things that AI are very good with, like human errors like that, right? And so you know, especially for healthcare, I think that's going to be incredibly important for, you know, just the wellness of patients, et cetera. So yeah, absolutely. I think those are very good use cases for AI being deployed and being used. I think there are really great things out there that we can do that where AI is a perfect fit, at least, you know, with the advancement of the technology right now. You know, in the future, it really might end up being the silver bullet, but I think for now, those are the places where we really do want to look for to really deploy this technology.
You talk about what it can do, what it can't do. Can you explain sort of how it works?
So that's a really broad topic, and
yeah, that's fair. And talk to me like because I'm an idiot. So talk to me like that.
Okay. So I think a lot of people when they talk about AI, you know, at least recently, they're thinking about, you know, a lot of language related items, and I think for that, what it really is, you know, taking in examples of text, right, and evaluating, you know, based off of sort of input you give it, what the likelihood of, you know, the next piece of text is going to be given what it has read already. So, you know, if you've trained your model on I like dogs, if you give it an input of I like, it would think that the next word should be dogs, right? And so that's sort of a very, very simplified version of what some of this language processing is. And I think you know, a lot of the times when people think of, there are lots of very different branches of AI, and you know, it's very easy to think that certain portions are a lot smarter than it is, because often I do hear people say, hey, you know, AI is smart, right? It can, but in reality, a lot of it really can't think the way humans do think.
So piggybacking on that, that's great. You're going to segue into training the AI, right? Is what you're saying, that it needs feedback. And so can you talk about the feedback loop in AI, the data that's being inserted, the feedback loop, how, you know, how we think about it here at OWL in terms of human in the loop reinforcement?
Yeah, you know, I think what we've done here, you know, really has been, you know, building out systems that are very geared towards ESG and corporate reporting data, et cetera. You know, we have multiple pieces of technology, both from a more traditional language model to generative AI systems here. And, you know, through a lot of our processing of data and documents, we continue to basically train it over time to get better at extracting, you know, a variety of different things, and generating various different pieces of content related to, I think, what a lot of our customers are looking for. So there's a lot to go into there. And I think, you know, again, a lot of it is for us to really help our users process just vast amounts of data, right? And be able to get to a point where, instead of looking at a massive data set, trying to figure out what exactly it is that they need to get them, you know, to get them to start, you know, at least halfway there.
Would you say, so I know we have our beta test already out. Would you say that a big benefit is specifically, I guess, having that and getting their feedback, and then us being able to hone, okay, this is exactly what they're looking for, this is what's working, this is what might not be working, and then that kind of just goes with the whole, just like you mentioned, making it so they're more enticed to use it because they're getting the greater benefit of it because it's exactly what they're looking for.
Yeah, you know, I think right now, for the beta that we have launched, users are generally getting really two parts of what we provide. One is the data that we process through AI, and secondly, a tool for them to really get an understanding of that data. And so, you know, we are not necessarily using what the users are putting into the system currently to train the AI, but as we continue to develop some of what we're providing with the users, we do give feedback to our AI models, and you know, continue to improve that.
What is there danger? So this is something, and look, again, I'm talk to me like a complete idiot here. As we are teaching our models to learn, is there danger of them learning the wrong things?
Oh, absolutely. And I think, you know, when you're thinking about AI, there's a lot of, you know, as I mentioned before, there are a lot of considerations that need to be made, and a lot of education that needs to happen for the users, et cetera. You know, having an understanding of what it is and what is not, but also the potential risks of it. I think on our end, we try to mitigate some of the impact it has, negative impact it has, by, you know, what Nate mentioned, human in the loop feedback. It's really to adjust the AI to tell it, hey, you know, this is not how you should be extracting or viewing or generating certain pieces of content. And, a lot of this still does require human oversight, right? I think there are a lot of social, economic, and environmental sort of consequences of what gets produced. And I think a lot of the times we do need to have the right people in place to assess, to do assessments of the impact of using some of these tools, and and some of the content that's being generated as well.
Yeah, could you speak a little bit to there's a lot of data that we're inserting into the model. We're going to allow clients to insert data as well, right? Can we talk about data ingestion, and then the whole idea of data privacy and security around these AI models?
Yeah, so I think it's going to vary depending on what the tool is and what people are looking to do with AI, right? I think in general, OWL typically doesn't provide a specific viewpoint, right? What we want to do is enable people to use AI to get what they need. But having said that, I think in general, for anything that we look at, that we process, we do look for certain, we try to mitigate negative impact in where we detect and are able to find it. In terms of privacy and security, I think it's a very important part for OWL's customers, and a lot of the times, what we do is we have a very specific set of guidelines as to what it is that we deploy in terms of using any sort of actions users perform on our systems in training our AI, and a lot of the times, just having multi-tenancy where certain groups of users will be completely segregated from others, and I think it's really important to have that, especially a lot of times it is so attractive to take what the users do on our systems, right? For any technology company, and just to use and want to say, hey, I want to use all of that to train our AI because it's going to be that much more effective. But at the same time, we really do need to be conscious of the needs of our users, and really ensure that what they are providing is has the right segregation for privacy, confidentiality, etc.
Let me ask a follow-up on that. So Andrew, we talk about the different types of AI, and obviously that gets more complex, but what we're really talking about is leveraging a powerful technology that can solve problems. So in this case, what is the problem that we're solving for specifically for our clients?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest pain points we've noticed with our clients is they have an abundance of data, but in a lot of times it's just so much that it's very difficult to wade through all of it and get to sort of a data set that they can really trust, and to a data set that they can really use. And so that's really the problem that we're trying to solve there, which is, again, all of it is about productivity, right? And getting our users to a point where they know that a data point is something that they can trace back to the source, that
they can verify it right there.
Exactly. And so really all of our work is surrounding that. We try to remove any human errors. We try to provide as much transparency as possible, all the way down to the source of the data. And so there's really no surprises there.
And that's so even when they're required to verify, the verification is at their fingertips, as opposed to if you're buying from a data provider and something comes in wrong, all of a sudden you're sitting on the phone with their customer service everyone's probably having the same problem.
Yeah. And I think that they'll see the value in the productivity, because you really can, it has enabled us to, gather data more frequently, right? It really does amplify the productivity,
which is the key. And I think one point that's worth mentioning here is that, because we hear about the potential for AI taking jobs, right? And that's going to happen to some degree. Any disruptive technology is going to involve some market turnover. So when you have self-driving trucks, there's going to be some disruption. But with our AI, what we're really doing is freeing up valuable, high-trained, highly educated, specialized resources to stop doing this sort of rote, mundane data gathering and verification task and actually putting it to the analysis.
That's exactly it, right? And I think I used an analogy of the PC, early on. It really is very similar to that. What the PC brought, to the workforce is you really don't have to physically take a piece of paper and find the filing cabinet, right? And spend a lot of time doing that. And oftentimes, again, human errors there where, oh, I have no idea where this piece of paper went. And so with what we're doing, it's very similar with AI as well, right? You don't have to spend the time wading through hundreds of pages of documents, and it'll get you to the point where you can really start making use of that data.
Yeah, and I think oh, sorry, go ahead, Rob.
I was going to ask you, Nate, because you're on product, when you're thinking about this, like how does that affect the way you're thinking about the product development?
Well, with this specific piece of the product, Andrew and I and the team really work closely together with Andrew and taking the lead. It's really like Andrew said, really what we're trying to do is free up more time for the analysts, right, to do their job. So one of the other analogies I like to say is we're trying to get you from your 5-yard line to maybe the 50-yard line, right? Or the other team's territory. We want to start you there. You're still gonna have to do work. You're still gonna have to think. You're still gonna have to strategize, right? It's not like you just push a button, you go take a nap for 4 hours and you get up and wow, look, it did everything I wanted it to do. It's more to free up time and to make our customers not just more productive, but it frees them up to absorb more information and be that much more broad in what they're looking at, and then narrowing it down to specific subtopics like we like to talk about. So that's really the analogy. And so, Andrew, and we talk about this every day with Andrew, and it's really getting back to, and Andrew's really good at this in their meetings. What problem are we solving, right? We don't want to be cute and just throw a bunch of technology out there just so it's, oh, look at us, it's cool. Because if we're not solving the customer's problem, then what are we doing? It's just a bunch of cool features that we're throwing out there. So we really have to think about it in that way. And that's what, Andrew spends a lot of his time doing. I spend a lot of time doing, but it's what and then hearing back this beta, hearing back from the customers, there's ways they're using it that I didn't even think about, right? I thought, wow, okay. Is that something we chase, or is that something we put on the back burner? So Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the way I think about it. So
yeah, I completely agree. And these creative ways of using the technology, right, it is the byproduct of them having time to really think about all of these other things. Now that the things that could be automated, the things that could be done with AI, have freed them up to do so.
Yeah. So it's almost like a two-edged sword. We free them up to think, and now they're thinking, we're like, oh crap, now they want this. So whereas in the past they were too busy doing all this other stuff to, but that's a good problem to have, right? That's
a virtuous feedback loop.
What's that?
It's a virtuous feedback loop.
That's right. So yeah. So
here's a question. I'm curious. Andrew, you're a little bit younger than Nate and I. We're roughly the same age. Tessa, we got a couple of years on you, just a couple. What's the difference when you look at this? Like, how natural does this seem to you? Because I like when I was a kid, there were no cell phones, and
Mm.
I'm not that old, so there were when I was in high school, but it's like I've watched this develop, and it's weird, it's interesting seeing, but you've come up with this. The technology part is more second nature to you. So when you hear about the AI, like what's your reaction? How much of it do you see as a potential problem? How much do you see it as just a pure opportunity to solve problems?
So first of all, I don't know if you're really that much older than I am.
All right, fair.
First of all.
I think I have a couple years on you. I might be wrong.
But I think AI is only going to get better with time, and I think we're really in its infancy right now. Especially, I mean, as you can see, all of a sudden, generative AI suddenly showed up, and it's really changed a lot of landscape. And I think as we continue to develop this technology, it's going to get more powerful. We're going to find different ways of leveraging some of what has come up, and possibly also it may translate into other fields of AI. And I think overall, this is, I mean, even if you look at PCs, right, what it used to be and what they are now, and also with AI being integrated into them as well, I think we have a long way to go, and I think there's going to be some really incredible things we can do with this.
Has anything to add?
Oh, I was just going to say that. So from my point of view, I've always kind of been like a little hesitant with AI because I've learned, I mean, I've worked in the healthcare industry and I've seen how beneficial it is. Then I've also seen how they can encounter a lot of problems, especially like Andrew, when we were mentioning before, by, doing it by hand and entering it into the system, if it's a really laborious task, and you're tired, and of course, depending on what field you're in, if you type in a wrong key, and if that's something, on the patient's health record, that could be very, very bad. But for me, so I have a master's in writing and publishing, and I've always been kind of hesitant to use AI. So for example, like the main one that everyone usually probably knows about is ChatGPT. And to me, I know that a lot of it helps with, leveraging. Like for me, it's great to, if I can't really create a sentence in my head, I know what I'm trying to say, but I can't really, get it out on paper. That's where it's beneficial. But to me, in a way, I feel like I'm almost cheating just because, it is, I think of it like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm copywriting. And of course, in the publishing field, that is a big, big no-no, but realistically, it's not. So I use it a lot to just help really simplify terms, or, like in the ESG landscape, there's a lot of complex terminology. So, when I'm writing articles, I really will copy and paste and be like, can you reword this for me to understand? So I think that's a great way for someone like myself to use it, but not fully rely on it, because I can see that, and there probably are companies and individuals that rely on it fully, which I personally don't think one should ever do. I think of AI in general as a way to enhance what you're doing.
Yeah, it's funny because I think that perfectly sums up what we've been talking about this session. I think I feel like you have a very good understanding as to what some of the implications are, right, surrounding both what you're trying to accomplish, what the AI provides, potentially even what it's been trained on, and what can potentially come out of it, right? And it affects the way you use it as well. And so overall, I think this is really the approach, with when using AI. It's really important whether you're an individual, whether you're an organization, right? When you use or deploy AI, that level of understanding, and is just so important, and it will help shape, how you end up using it.
So what? I have a couple more questions because this is really getting interesting. So you familiar with Tay, the Microsoft chatbot from 2016?
Yes.
It went from I love all humans to quite literally a very, very passionate Nazi in 24 hours. Just playing on feedback from talking to people on Twitter. Now, to be fair, the people on Twitter went in and they were like, we're going to say the worst things possible. I mean, there's a little bit of humor there in that specific situation, but when algorithms train these things, they can respond to the wrong stimuli because correlations, don't prove causation, but they can draw very strong correlations to things. How concerned are you about that? Or is our model so different from what that's doing that it's not?
Yeah, so internally at Owl, I think we're sort of far from that overall. And again, based off of our guidelines, we're very clear as to what we ingest and what we don't. I think, but overall, for any organization, having the set of regulations and standards, having the oversight and having just, an impact analysis or an ethical or moral set of guidelines and analysis surrounding it, and how organizations use it, I think is incredibly important, and it will prevent that.
So speaking of that, the just to mention, no question around it, but to piggyback off what Andrew's saying is the White House just released an executive order on safe, secure, and trustworthy artificial intelligence that came out this Monday. So it's on the White House website, but it talks about the guidelines and privacy and, ensuring that it's not causing discrimination or, issues of fairness throughout the criminal justice system. There's a long list of items. It's a pretty good read, actually, pretty comprehensive. But yeah, I think that's one of the concerns that's out there, as Andrew mentioned. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see what comes of it.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned that, right? Because I think a big, it really is. You should view AI really as same with anything, any tools that people use, right? I know often associated with AI, et cetera, is Tesla, right? They produce electric cars, they produce a flamethrower. Who's to say they would strap a flamethrower to an electric car, right?
I buy that car.
But that's exactly it, right? It's I think it's important to again, we're really early on in terms of the development of AI and various technologies surrounding it, right? And alongside that, we just need to make sure that any organization involved that is involved with it are accountable and have put in the thought before really leveraging a lot of what's available out there.
So okay, this is where we get a little away from Al, but this is fascinating to me because I think about this a lot. How do we continue to do that when AI becomes good enough to start writing its own AI? Because then you're talking about exponential growth in seconds sometimes.
Well, I think there are sort of boundaries a lot of the times with what you can build, right? Even if AI is able to build something else, it's most probable that you're able to specify guidelines surrounding it, right? In ChatGPT, it will block you from doing certain things, from searching for certain things or generating certain topics. And so I think
I'm aware I've put that to the test.
But I think that that's but I think it really is dependent on the peoples that are really providing it and to really and the people using it to be really looking at that.
So what I'm really getting at is how long until AI takes over the world? No, in all seriousness, and Nate and Andrew, I'm curious as a final question, like what's the future? What's the next 3, 6, 9, 12 months for Owl with our AI? What are we looking at? How do we continue solving these problems?
Well, I'll let Andrew have the final word on that. As you guys were talking, there's another thing that happened this week on November 1st, November 2nd. It was an AI safety summit in England with Prime Minister Sunak. And it was AI safety. And they were trying to they were looking at two specific topics, which was misuse of AI and loss of control, right? So if you Google that and just look at some of it, but the who's who was there. Tesla and AI CEO Elon Musk, Microsoft was there, Google, DeepMind was there, Meta, Amazon Web Services, OpenAI, Anthropic, NVIDIA, and the list goes on and on. Palantir was there, Samsung, Salesforce. So, that's an interesting read, but they're looking at what they call frontier AI, beyond what we have now, just to try to anticipate some of those questions you're asking, Rob. And I am definitely not expert enough to even contemplate what that may be, but just wanted to put that plug in there, and I'll have Andrew have the last word, better versed on answering that question than I am.
Yeah, I think ongoing Owl is always trying to improve what we currently have, just to provide better data, more reliable, transparent. I think in the next 36 months or so, we should expect a little bit more surrounding AI and the usage of some of the data that we're providing, that we've been providing. And I think there's going to be some really cool stuff you'll see come out of our pipeline.
Well, I'm certainly looking forward to it. Andrew, thank you very much. I know how busy you are, so I really appreciate you taking the time to come on and talk about this. Tessa, thank you for joining. Nate, as always, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, you're looking forward to that Tesla with the flamethrower, aren't you? So,
well, when I get that car, she's going to have to take over doing my job because I'm going to be driving all the time.
Yeah, talk about misuse.
Right? Thank you for having me. I enjoy this just as much as you guys. This is awesome.
Hey, you're welcome anytime. It's always a good conversation. This is Armchair ESG. I am Rob Yates, Director of Communications. Remember, everyone listening, like and subscribe. Communications@owlesg.com. If you have questions, complaints, hate mail, if you want to send your AI after me, let's do it. I'll go toe to toe. As always, thank you for listening, and we'll see you again next week. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.